be good for us to talk a little bit about the things that we try and think about, whether it's from my perspective would be more as somebody who has received therapy or has been in a relationship with therapists or people supporting me. What do I need to think about when working with voices? But also from your perspectives, what do you need to consider? What do you need to look at? What conditions do you need to nurture in order to make this work safe? And maybe what do you need to watch out for?
This is just, most of the work is creating the conditions where it feels safe, where someone can feel confident and hopeful in this approach. So for me, this bit is crucial. For me, that means the social conditions, like the social context, but also the physical conditions, so more in the body, how we can feel sort of grounded in the body. So sort of safe in the social context, grounded in the body, but also the psychological conditions where we're kind of motivated for well-being, motivated for trying to be helpful. And so it's almost like thinking about social, biological and psychological all together, and I think there's stuff that we can certainly do to optimise the chances of someone working out what's the most helpful way to go with the relationship with their voices. So certainly me as a therapist, I don't see my role as someone who's like a fixer of problems, but my job is more of a facilitator of an environment or a context where the voice hearer can do their own problem solving really, or work out for themselves what's the best way forward.
Whether it's in group self-help groups or one-to-one where I'm more in a sort of therapist role, what I believe in, I guess, is that everybody's got expertise and wisdom about themselves and their lives. So really encouraging that in the people I'm supporting, that to listen into that, and when we discuss an approach, the person checking in, how does that feel? Do you want to give it a try? Do you want to try this role play, or do you want to try this talking with this voice, or do you want to wait? And really help people have a sense of confidence in their gut feeling and this inner compass that everybody, I believe, has. I'm very much trying to help the person to do the work, as you're saying, themselves, so that the work carries on in between groups or one-to-one sessions. I'm not trying to be the person fixing who the person becomes dependent on to talk with their voices or to do some fancy exercise, and they wait for the next fix of that, but very much them taking it forward themselves and kind of reporting back to the group or to me about how that's going.
When you're in a relationship with a therapist, it's quite easy to give them a lot of authority. Also, there could be an expectation of trust, so that there's supposed to be trust there, that's just because the therapist or the psychologist or the professional is in a professional role and has had a lot of training and sees themselves as somebody with a lot of expertise. You are expected to trust them, and that in itself is a tricky process. I thought when I first started relating to professionals that I would trust them, but I quickly found that I didn't. As in all relationships, it really depends on the person. There's no specific profession that I trust more than another profession. It's all about the interpersonal relationship and how that person talks, how that person moves, what that person likes. The initial sort of, do I trust this person or not? You can go into a relationship with a professional and really want to trust them because you want this to work and you want to achieve something, you want progress. It's a little bit like trying to find the one and only. The chemistry is there or it's not, we can't produce it. And I think from the start, I think that's important to be aware of. Don't just trust someone because they've got a certain professional expertise. Trust them because the chemistry is there. You mentioned really tuning into a gut feeling is this moving too fast or too slow, and being honest with the person you're working with, saying I didn't find that helpful, I don't like that. Checking with the voices. How do the voices feel about what's going on? How do they feel about the therapist? Is the chemistry between the voices and the therapist, is the chemistry there or not?
It has to be consensual, really. The person has to want to talk about their voices. If we're doing some exercise where we're trying to dialogue with the voice has to want to come to the table. And if any of those people or the therapist facilitator doesn't feel comfortable, it can't work. So everybody has to feel comfortable. And so I guess we all need to be listening to our anxiety levels. If anybody involved in the relationship feels like this is too much, we need to listen to that and stop, take a break. Think, is this the way we want to go? Do we want to do more grounding?
The implication really is that we have to be going really slowly in order to notice these things and these feelings in the room and in ourselves. And if we start a therapeutic relationship trying to follow a load of questions we need to get through, we can't, it's so hard to tune into that stuff. So particularly early on, how we can just really listen to the feelings and like what feels okay, and should we sit here or should we go for a walk, or should we go a bit slower, just really tuning into these kind of more non-verbal things early on to make sure we're creating an emotionally safe context. I think when we are anxious, we the danger is we speed up a bit and we start sort of talking through our anxiety. So it takes quite a lot of courage and intentionality to keep slowing down and keep coming back.
One thing that can be a big issue is the support network around the person, so that if we're trying to promote a more accepting approach to someone's voices, what is the support network around thinking? And if they're thinking the person needs to get rid of their voices, they just wish the voices would go away, which is very understandable, and everybody's trying to medicate the voices away or say don't talk about them, it'll make them worse, then that's really going to undermine the approach. So we probably need to work educationally with the support network. That might include the doctor, the family, support workers. Yeah, so I just feel that's important context. Otherwise we're pulling somebody in one direction, they're getting pulled in another direction. Yeah. So I've had the situation where I'm encouraging someone to dialogue with their voices and the psychiatrist is increasing their medication, and it was great for us, the three of us, to have a conversation about that. Yeah. And let's try find some common ground.
I think that's the reason that people, therapists who attend workshops that I've been running, that's the reason they say why they don't start doing this on Monday, after the workshop. It's very much that. It's that they might feel like they're doing something different to the rest of the team, that the rest of the team might judge them for that, or think they're being naive, or think they're being colluding with the voices. So it's a really huge challenge that trying to address how we can work with teams and the network and families, and like you say, if they can be involved with the process, if it's in the room with some of this work, or whether we can provide links and resources and reading to families. Like you say, it will be undone if, as soon as they go back to being in a different relationship, in a different context. So I think definitely for us to be tuned into the wider context of this work at all times is crucial.
I know someone who were pulled in two directions, and she chose to stay with it for a while, but eventually it got so difficult that she chose to go with a more medical approach, and that worked for her for a couple of years. But the things that she learned from thinking about a more accepting approach, stayed with her, and eventually it sort of kind of grew by itself, and it sort of supported her on her journey that way. So I think sometimes, even if people choose a different direction than engaging with voices, I don't necessarily see that as a problem or as failure, or that sometimes that's understandable, and that's the best way to go sometimes.